Hey, Heartland fans! Welcome back to Next Level. Picture this, in the quiet of her room, Amy sits on the edge of her bed, gazing out at the sprawling Heartland fields, bathed in a golden sunset. But inside, she's a whirlwind of emotions. The news of her pregnancy has rocked her world. Her lifelong dream of motherhood is finally here, but not in the way she ever imagined. In this episode, we're diving deep into Amy's journey, through this life-altering moment, and what it means for her family, her future, and the Heartland we all love. Let's get into it. As she gazed into the distance, memories flooded back moments with Caleb, their laughter, their dreams, and ultimately their heartbreak. The last time she had seen Caleb felt like a lifetime ago. They had shared so much together, but his sudden departure left a void that was hard to fill. Now, with this new chapter beginning, Amy found herself wondering if he would want to be a part of it. Would he even care? The uncertainty gnawed at her heart. She picked up her phone and scrolled through old pictures of them smiling faces, carefree days spent riding horses and exploring the ranch. It was hard to believe that those moments were now overshadowed by doubt and fear. In the meantime, in the fundamental house, Lo and Tim found a seat at the kitchen table, somewhere down in discussion about Amy's circumstance. Lou's temple was wrinkled with worry as she talked. "We want to help her through this," she demanded, regardless of who the dad or occurs straight away. Tim gestured gradually, figuring out the heaviness of Lou's words. He could perceive the amount Amy was battling and realize that family support was urgent during a particularly troublesome time. "Do you figure Caleb will return?" he asked discreetly, his voice loaded up with stress. Lou moaned profoundly. "I don't have the foggiest idea. However, in the event that he does, we should be prepared for it. This is about something beyond Amy. It's pretty much us all." Their discussion lingered palpably like a weighty cloud, loaded up with implicit feelings of trepidation and expectations for what lay ahead. As night fell over Heartland, Amy ended up laying there, grappling with her viewpoints. She felt alone regardless of being encircled by family who cherished her beyond all doubt. The truth of approaching parenthood posed a potential threat to her. How might she make do? Might she at any point do this without Caleb? The inquiries spiraled around her head like a tornado. All at once, her telephone hummed on the end table. It was a message from Caleb, an unexpected sign of their past association that sent a shock through her heart. "Hello, Amy. I've been pondering you." Those straightforward words worked up a blend of feelings: trust, dread, yearning. Did he be aware? Did he detect that something important had changed? Her hands floated over the screen as she discussed whether to answer or leave things implied. The following morning carried a freshness to the air that indicated change. Amy chose to go for a stroll around Heartland to clear her brain. As she walked around the comfortable way fixed with wildflowers and tall grass influencing in the breeze, recollections overflowed back, cheerful times enjoyed with loved ones who had forever been there for her. Out of nowhere, as she adjusted a twist close to the animal dwelling place, she saw a figure remaining somewhere far off. Her heart dashed as acknowledgement set in. It was Caleb. He remained there with his hands pushed into his pockets, looking similarly as she recalled, yet some way or another different as well, more seasoned and more serious than previously. Time had elapsed since they last saw one another. However, seeing him again brought back that multitude of unsettled sentiments. Caleb turned upward as he detected somebody drawing closer and met Amy's look. Briefly, all the other things disappeared: the stresses over the future, the apprehension about judgment from others. All that made a difference was this second between them. "Amy," he said delicately, reluctantly. "Caleb," she answered, attempting to keep her voice consistent in spite of the hurricane of feelings inside her. They remained there for what felt like an unending length of time before either talked once more. At last, ending the quietness, Caleb made a stride nearer. I caught wind of everything, he said cautiously. Amy felt a knot structure in her throat as she gestured gradually. Definitely, it's been hard. She could feel tears prickling at the sides of her eyes, however battled them back. Please accept my apologies, I wasn't there, Caleb went on sincerely. I ought to have connected sooner. His voice held authentic lament that made Amy's heart hurt significantly more. For what reason did you leave? She asked discreetly, requiring replies to questions that had tormented her since he left. Caleb ran a hand through his hair and moaned profoundly. I thought it was for the best for the two of us. His look dropped to the ground as though he was unable to bear to meet her eyes any longer. The unease between them was overwhelming as the two of them wrestled with their feelings. The adoration that never really blurred blended in with the aggravation from past decisions and words expressed too quickly. I don't have any idea what to do now, Amy conceded, at long last inclination, defenseless, however frantic for clearness. Once more, Caleb ventured nearer and investigated her eyes with earnestness. I need to be hanging around for you, assuming you'll let me. His words lingered palpably like an implicit commitment. As they stood together underneath the immense Heartland sky, both realized that this gathering could make a huge difference as far as they might be concerned, however for their families as well. They were at a junction where choices should have been made about their future together or separated. With feelings whirling around them like harvest time leaves trapped in a whirlwind, they moved towards seeing each other once more, an excursion loaded up with trust, yet shadowed by vulnerability, about what lay ahead for the two of them and their unborn kid. The day extended on as they discussed their sentiments and fears, sharing giggling in the midst of tears as they explored their muddled history together, longing for clearness in a questionable future loaded up with potential outcomes, yet touched with uncertainty. As night drew nearer and shadows extended across Heartland's scene, a feeling of goal started to come to fruition between them, a delicate yet confident bond revived in the midst of life's turmoil, standing by past their span. As the sun plunged beneath the skyline, projecting a warm sparkle over Heartland, Amy and Caleb wound up sitting on the yard of the primary house. The natural squeaking of the wooden sheets underneath them felt encouraging. However, the heaviness of their discussion waited vigorously in the air. They had gone through hours talking, sharing their expectations and fears. Yet presently, the time had come to defy the truth of Amy's pregnancy. Amy, Caleb started, his voice consistent, however loaded with feeling. I really want to know how you genuinely feel about this, about everything. He went to confront her, his appearance sincere. I need to be hanging around for you. However, I can't do that, assuming you're uncertain about what you need. Amy took a full breath, feeling her heart race. I'm frightened, Caleb, she conceded, her voice scarcely over a murmur. I've for practically forever needed to be a mother, yet this isn't the means by which I envisioned it working out. I thought we'd be together when we began a family. Tears welled in her eyes as she talked, and she immediately cleaned them away with the rear of her hand. Caleb moved nearer, his anxiety clear. You don't need to go through this by itself. I realize I screwed up previously, yet I need to make things right. His words were loaded up with genuineness, and Amy felt a glint of trust light inside her. However, consider the possibility that you leave once more, she asked, her voice shudder. Consider the possibility that I let you back into my life, and afterward you vanish once more. I can't go through that torment once more. Caleb's demeanor relaxed as he clasped her hand with his. I guarantee you, I won't leave this time. Had opportunity and energy to contemplate the main thing, and it's you and our kid. His grasp was firm at this point, delicate, establishing her at that time. The glow of his hand brought solace, yet Amy's heart was still weighty with vulnerability. Imagine a scenario where we're not prepared. Imagine a scenario where we can't make it work. she pondered, scanning his eyes for replies. Caleb stopped briefly prior to answering. Life is rarely great or simple. However, we can sort it out together, he said sincerely. I accept we can be a family on the off chance that we both need it. Amy felt a surge of feelings. Mixed with a longing and hankering for association, she had spent such a long time feeling separated in her battles. The possibility of having Caleb close by felt both elating and startling. All of a sudden, Lou ventured out onto the patio, detecting the strain between them. Hello, both of you, she said delicately, attempting to measure the state of mind. I thought I'd think that you are here. She plunked down alongside them, quickly getting on the close-to-home load in the air. Lou, Amy said, her voice shudder somewhat as she went to her sister for help. Could we at any point discuss this? About how it affects everybody? Lou gestured mindfully, prepared to tune in. Obviously, anything you want. Caleb looked at Lou prior to talking once more. I need to be essential for this family, he said solidly. I realize I've committed errors before. However, I'm willing to take the necessary steps to help Amy and our child. Lou looked between them, her demeanor relaxing as she perceived Caleb's truthfulness. It's vital that you both discussion transparently about your sentiments, she exhorted delicately. This is a major change for all interested parties. I simply don't have any desire to let anybody down, Amy admitted, her voice breaking with feeling. I've for practically forever needed to do right by my family. However, presently, all that feels so convoluted. Lou put a soothing hand on Amy's shoulder. You're in good company in this, she said immovably. All of us are hanging around for you, regardless of what occurs straight away. As they sat together on the yard under the blurring light of nightfall, a feeling of solidarity started to frame among them, a bond reinforced by shared encounters and love for one another. Caleb took a full breath and kept talking from his heart. Amy, I know there's a ton we really want to sort out together, he said delicately. However, I believe you should realize that I'm focused on being there for yourself as well as our child. Tears spilled down Amy's cheeks as a staggering flood of feeling, help blended in with appreciation washed over her like a wave running into the shore. Much thanks to you, she murmured through her tears, feeling lighter than she had in days. At that time of weakness and association, they generally comprehended that, while challenges lay ahead, they could confront anything together. As night fell over Heartland and stars started to sparkle overhead above them, a feeling of trust bloomed inside their souls, the information that adoration could direct them even through the haziest times ahead. The following morning brought a new beginning, the sun ascending over Heartland with a commitment of fresh starts. Amy got up feeling a blend of feelings, confident yet restless about what lay ahead. After her ardent discussion with Caleb and Lou the prior night, she realized that she expected to assume responsibility for her life and embrace the progressions coming. As she advanced toward the kitchen, the fragrance of espresso swirled all around. Tim was at that point up. Better, Amy answered, pouring herself a cup of coffee. I had a good talk with Caleb and Lou last night. Tim raised an eyebrow, captivated. That is great to hear. Seems as though you're beginning to sort things out. Amy gestured, appreciating her dad's help. I assume It's simply I actually have such countless inquiries. Questions are typical, Tim said shrewdly. You don't must have every one of the responses at this moment. Simply approach it slowly and carefully. As they visited, Amy found solace in her dad's words, acknowledging she didn't need to confront this excursion alone. Her family was there for her constantly. Soon thereafter, Lou went along with them in the kitchen, looking splendid and lively. In this way, what's on the plan for now? She asked, presenting herself with some espresso. I was figuring I could go for a ride, Amy proposed. I want an opportunity to clear my head and ponder everything. Seems like a good thought, Lo answered. Simply be cautious out there. In the wake of completing breakfast, Amy got her riding gear and went out to the animal dwelling place. The recognizable sights and hints of Heartland brought her solace as she arranged to ride one of her ponies. Simple. Outfitting him up, she felt a feeling of harmony wash over her. When riding a horse, Amy rode through the fields, allowing the breeze to whip through her hair as she lost herself in thought. She considered her discussion with Caleb and how it had moved something inside her. Without precedent for a drawn-out period of time, she felt enabled to assume command over her life. As she rode further into the open country, Amy recognized a lovely spot by the waterway where she had spent numerous evenings as a kid dreaming about what's to come. She got off and driven straight forward to the water's edge, allowing him to drink while she plonked down on a close-by rock. In that tranquil second, encompassed essentially's excellence, Amy considered what it intended to become a mother. She pondered all the affection and backing from her family, and that establishing a sustaining climate for her child was so significant. Raising a child filled her with both bliss and dread anxiety toward not being sufficient or committing errors en route. Out of nowhere, she heard strides drawing closer and went to see Caleb strolling towards her with a comforting grin all over. "Mind assuming that I go along with you?" he asked energetically. "Not by any stretch," Amy answered, feeling a shudder in her stomach at his presence. Caleb plunked down adjacent to her on the stone, his eyes shimmering as he took in the magnificence around them. "This spot is astounding," he said delicately. "I can see the reason why you love it here." "It's my blissful spot," Amy conceded. "I've generally come here when I expected to think." Caleb took a gander at her truly. "Also, what is on your mind now?" She delayed the slightest bit prior to replying. "About being a mother, and how that affects us." Caleb gestured insightfully. "I've been contemplating that as well," he admitted. "I need to be a piece of this child's life, your life, in the event that you'll permit me." Amy felt warmth spread through her at his words, yet additionally vulnerability about what the future could hold. "It will not be simple," she cautioned tenderly. "I know," Caleb answered truly. "Yet I'm willing to attempt assuming you are." They shared a snapshot of quietness as the two of them consumed what lay ahead, a way loaded up with difficulties yet additionally potential open doors for development and love. Sooner or later, once more, Amy shouted out, feeling more sure about their association. "I figure we ought to take it each day in turn," she proposed mindfully. "We should zero in on being there for one another and see where it leads." Caleb grinned extensively at her words, help washing over his elements. "That sounds great," he concurred. As they sat by the riverbank, a feeling of harmony and trust bloomed inside them, realizing they were prepared to confront whatever came their direction together. Together, their spirits entwined by predetermination, their hearts started to recuperate from past injuries, while embracing a questionable yet confident future ahead. Soon thereafter, as they got back to Heartland connected at the hip, their bond fortified by shared dreams, they were met by Lou and Tim, who greeted them back wholeheartedly, an update that family was generally there through various challenges. At that time, encompassed by friends and family, Amy understood that regardless of what difficulties lay ahead, she couldn't have ever to confront them alone. As the days passed, insight about Amy's pregnancy started to spread all through the Heartland people group. While some were shocked, others lifted up her, offering support in manners that caused her to feel both cherished and overpowered. Their glow advised her that she was never genuinely alone on this excursion. One bright evening, Amy chose to visit the neighborhood public venue, where she had spent numerous blissful minutes encircled by companions and recognizable appearances. As she strolled through the entryways, she was welcomed by comfortable countenances illuminating with delight at seeing her. It felt quite a bit better to be back among individuals who minded. "Hello, Amy. We've missed you," got down on Jessica, a long-lasting companion who had forever been similar to a sister to her. "How goes it with you?" "I'm holding tight," Amy answered cheerfully. However, she might in any case feel the heaviness of vulnerability waiting in her heart, simply attempting to sort things out. Jessica maneuvered her into a warm embrace. "You will be an astounding mother. We are in general here for you," she said reassuringly. As Amy blended with the group, a feeling of having a place washed over her. Local area individuals anxiously shared their own accounts of parenthood and day-to-day life, offering exhortation and support. Individually, they shared encounters, some happy, some difficult, making an embroidery of insight that wrapped Amy like an encouraging cover. "Keep in mind, it takes a town," said Mrs. Thompson, a more seasoned lady known for her insight and benevolence. "We are in general here to help you constantly." Her words reverberated profoundly with Amy, and she understood that while she was entering this new section on her own in numerous ways, she likewise had an entire local area prepared to help her. Soon thereafter, the public venue facilitated a social occasion explicitly for eager moms and unexperienced parents. Lou urged Amy to join in, helping her to remember the significance of associating with other people who comprehended what she was going through. At the occasion, Amy ended up encompassed by ladies of any age, a few experienced moms sharing their bits of knowledge, others simply starting their processes like her. The air was loaded up with chuckling and kinship as they traded stories and guidance over cups of tea and custom-made snacks. One lady named Sarah moved toward Amy with a comforting grin. "I caught wind of your news, congrats," she said energetically. "I'm so invigorated for you." "Much obliged to you," Amy answered bashfully. "It's actually soaking in." Sarah gestured purposely. "I recollect when I figured out I was pregnant with my most memorable kid. It was overpowering, yet additionally one of the most mind-blowing encounters of my life." As they talked, Amy felt her concerns start to scatter. Hearing different ladies share their apprehensions and wins assisted her with understanding that it was all right to have a dubious outlook on the future. It was all important for the excursion. During the social affair, the ladies shared tips on everything from pre-birth care to getting ready for labor. They examined child names and nursery thoughts, making a climate overflowing with satisfaction and energy about fresh starts. As the occasion came to a nearby, Amy felt fortified by the associations she had made. She left with a feeling of trust and consolation that regardless of what difficulties lay ahead, she wouldn't need to confront them alone. The following day brought significantly more shocks when Lou coordinated a little assembling at Heartland for loved ones to observe Amy's pregnancy formally. It was a personal issue loaded up with giggling, great food, and genuine discussions. As everybody accumulated around the table, external under the shade of enormous oak trees, Tim raised his glass for a toast. "To family," he pronounced energetically, "and to fresh starts." Everybody participated in cheers, ringing glasses together, an image of solidarity and love that wrapped them all. Amy glanced around at the essences of the individuals who made the biggest difference, her loved ones, and felt a staggering feeling of appreciation. Every individual present addressed help and consolation during this urgent time in her life. Caleb remained alongside her, his hand laying on her back as he inclined in nearer. "You're not simply bringing a child into this world, you're bringing love into our lives as a whole," he murmured delicately in her ear. With tears shimmering in her eyes, Amy grinned at him, feeling more associated than any other time in recent memory to him. Yet to everybody around them who had met up as one major family, prepared to embrace this new part. As chuckling reverberated through Heartland that night, Amy understood that while parenthood would without a doubt bring difficulties, it would likewise give limitless pleasure. What's more, she realized she had an entire local area behind her, prepared to help her constantly. As the days transformed into weeks, Caleb wound up trapped in a hurricane of feelings. The fervor of becoming a dad was eclipsed by a pestering trepidation he was unable to shake. He had for a long time needed to be important for a family. However, the possibility of venturing once more into that job in the wake of leaving Amy felt overwhelming. He frequently wound up gazing through the window of his little loft, out to lunch, wrestling with his sentiments about what's to come. One night, in the wake of a monotonous day at work, Caleb sat on his love seat, replaying his discussions with Amy to him. He recalled her chuckling, the manner in which her eyes illuminated when she talked about her fantasies for their kid, and the weakness she had shown while examining her apprehensions. In any case, he likewise reviewed the torment from quite a while ago, the hurt brought about by his unexpected flight, and the vulnerability that waited between them. Caleb got his telephone and looked at photographs of more joyful times, pictures of him and Amy riding ponies, chuckling together under the sun, and sharing calm minutes at Heartland. Every photograph pulled at his heartstrings, helping him to remember what they once had and what could be once more. However, might he at any point genuinely move forward and be the man she really wanted him to be? The following day, he chose to visit Heartland once more. As he passed through the recognizable scene, recollections overwhelmed back his life as a youngster spent riding ponies, finding out about liability from Jack, and the affection he felt for Amy. Showing up at Heartland wanted to return home, however he was unable to shake the vibe that he was a pariah, attempting to recover a spot he had once deserted. At the point when Caleb showed up at the farm, he tracked down Amy in the animal dwelling place, brushing down austere. Seeing her carried a surge of warmth to his heart, yet it was immediately trailed by uncertainty. Could she greet him back wholeheartedly? Could she trust him once more? "Hello," Amy said as she turned upward and grinned, her face illuminating at his appearance. "I'm happy you're here." "Gratitude for having me?" Caleb answered, attempting to keep his voice consistent regardless of the strife inside him. As they worked collectively in the barn, they fell into a comfortable rhythm. They talked about normal things, the horses, the weather, and for a moment, it felt like nothing had changed between them. But under that surface, comfort lay an undercurrent of tension that neither wanted to address. After completing their chores, they took a break outside underneath the shade of a big tree. The air was warm and full of the sounds of nature, a perfect backdrop for what needed to be said. "I've been thinking a lot about everything about us, and what's ahead," Caleb began hesitantly. Amy looked at him carefully, her expression intense. "Me too," she replied softly. "I want to be there for you and our child," he said earnestly. "But I'm scared that it won't be enough, or that I'll mess things up again." Amy's gaze softened as she listened to him speak. "You're not alone in this," she reassured him. "We can figure it out together." "But what if I can't?" Caleb's voice cracked slightly as he revealed his vulnerability. "What if I let you down again? I don't want to hurt you." Amy reached out and placed her hand on his arm gently. "You need to believe in yourself and believe in us," she urged. "We're building something new here. It won't be easy, but we won't let fear hold us back." Caleb felt a flicker of hope igniting within him as he absorbed her words. He wanted so desperately to believe that they could create a loving family together, yet doubts still lingered in his mind. "What if history repeats itself?" he asked quietly. "I just want time," he admitted. "Time to figure out who I am now and how I can be there for you both." Amy nodded understandingly. "That's okay," she said softly. "We can take things slow, one day at a time." As they sat together beneath the tree, each felt a sense of relief wash over them, a mutual understanding that, while uncertainty loomed ahead, they were willing to face it together. In the following days, Caleb made an effort to be present not just physically, but emotionally as well. He attended doctor's appointments with Amy and participated in prenatal classes alongside her. Every experience strengthened their bond and allowed him to confront his fears head-on. Yet even amidst these moments of connection, Caleb struggled internally with feelings of inadequacy, wondering if he could ever truly measure up as a partner or father. One night after class, as they walked back to Heartland together, hand in hand, Caleb paused and looked into Amy's eyes earnestly. "I need you to understand how much this means to me," he said. "Just being here with you, it feels right." Amy smiled warmly at him, a spark of hope igniting between them once again. "It is right," she affirmed softly as they stood there beneath the vast sky filled with stars, a sense of possibility enveloping them both. They knew that, while challenges lay ahead, they could navigate them together with love guiding the way. As the days turned into weeks, Amy and Caleb continued to navigate their new relationship, while preparing for the arrival of their baby. They found themselves growing closer, yet there were still unspoken fears and uncertainties lingering beneath the surface. One night, after a long day at the ranch, Amy felt the need to have an open and honest conversation with Caleb about their future. They sat together on the porch of the main house, the sun setting in a brilliant display of oranges and pink. The warm breeze carried the scent of blooming wildflowers, creating a peaceful atmosphere that felt just right for what Amy needed to discuss. She took a deep breath, gathering her thoughts before turning to Caleb. "Can we talk about us?" she asked softly, her heart racing with the vulnerability of the moment. Caleb looked at her with interest and concern. "Of course," he replied, leaning in slightly as though to show he was fully present. "What's on your mind?" "I've been thinking a lot about our relationship and what it means moving forward," Amy began, her voice steady but filled with emotion. "I know we've both been through a lot, and I want to make sure we're on the same page." Caleb nodded, his expression serious. "I agree. I want us to be clear about what we want and how we can support each other." Amy felt a wave of relief wash over her. "I think it's important for us to talk about our expectations, especially now that we're going to be parents," she said. "I need to understand how you envision our future together." Caleb paused for a moment, gathering his thoughts. "Honestly, I want to be there for you and our child," he said earnestly. "I want to be a good partner and father, but I also know I need to work on myself first, on being the best version of me that I can be." His honesty resonated deeply with Amy. "I admire that," she responded softly. "I feel like we're both learning as we go, and it's okay to admit that we don't have all the answers." Caleb smiled at her words, feeling a sense of camaraderie in their shared journey. "Exactly. We're in this together. But what if things get difficult?" Amy asked, her voice tinged with fear. "What if we're faced with situations that seem insurmountable?" Caleb reached out and took her hand, squeezing it gently. "We'll face them together," he promised. "I'm committed to being here for you no matter what." As they sat there, holding hands under the fading light, Amy felt a surge of hope fill her heart. She realized that their connection had grown stronger through their openness and honesty, something she had longed for since they first reunited. "I want us to talk openly about everything," she said earnestly. "If something is bothering us, or if we're feeling overwhelmed, let's promise each other we'll talk about it rather than keeping it inside." Caleb gestured overwhelmingly. "Totally. No more leaving or staying away from intense discussions," he concurred. "We deserve it and our youngster." With that commitment made between them, they started examining their expectations for life as a parent, the sort of climate they needed to make for their kid, and how they expected to adjust their jobs as accomplices and guardians. "I believe that our child should grow up realizing they're adored genuinely," Amy said energetically. "I believe they should have a good sense of reassurance and upheld, regardless." Caleb grinned at her excitement. "Me as well," he answered energetically. "What's more, I maintain that they should realize they can continuously come to us with anything, regardless of how enormous or little." As they talked about their expectations for their future family, chuckling rose between them, swirling into the atmosphere with daintiness in the midst of the profound discussions about obligation and responsibility. Ultimately, as night fell, stars started glimmering above Heartland. Amy inclined her head in the direction of Caleb's shoulder, a token of solace and association. "Much obliged to you for being so open with me," she murmured delicately. Caleb turned his head marginally toward her, his eyes reflecting genuineness. "Much obliged to you for confiding in me enough to have this discussion," he answered. At that time, underneath the immense sky loaded up with stars, a feeling of harmony encompassed them both. They knew that while challenges lay ahead, they were prepared to confront them, along with adoration directing their direction. As the weeks transformed into months, Amy and Caleb kept on developing nearer, their bond reinforcing as time passes. Notwithstanding, the truth of approaching life as a parent weighed intensely on Amy. With her due date drawing nearer, she felt a combination of fervor and nervousness about what lay ahead. It was the ideal opportunity for her to arrive at a few significant conclusions about her future and Caleb's job in it. One evening, Amy chose to take a calm second for herself. She tracked down a quiet spot in the nursery, encompassed by sprouting blossoms and the delicate murmur of nature. Sitting on a seat, she shut her eyes and took a full breath, permitting the outside air to fill her lungs. She really wanted clearness about what she genuinely cared about. As she stayed there, recollections overflowed back, minutes imparted to Caleb, the chuckling they had delighted in, and the profound discussions that had brought them closer. However, close by those recollections came the heaviness of vulnerability. Might she at any point truly depend on him? Could he be there when she really wanted him most? After some time in contemplation, Amy felt a surge of determination. She realized that she wanted to embrace this new chapter of her life with Caleb by her side. They had both committed to being open and honest with each other, and now it was time to take that commitment to the next level. Later that night, as the sun set over Heartland, casting a warm golden light across the ranch, Amy invited Caleb to join her for dinner on the porch. She set the table with care, placing candles and flowers as a centerpiece to create an intimate atmosphere. Caleb arrived just as the last rays of sunlight dipped below the horizon. He smiled at the sight before him, appreciating Amy's effort to make the evening special. "Wow, this looks amazing," he said as he took a seat across from her. "Thanks," Amy replied, feeling a flutter of nerves in her stomach. "I wanted us to have some time together to talk." Caleb's expression shifted slightly as he sensed the seriousness in her tone. "Sure," he said softly. "What's on your mind?" As they enjoyed their meal under the twinkling stars, Amy felt her heart race. This was it, the moment she had been preparing for. She began cautiously. "I've been thinking about our future and what it means for us as parents," she said. Caleb put down his fork and looked at her intently. "I've been thinking about that too," he admitted. "What are you feeling?" Taking a deep breath, Amy gathered her thoughts. "I want you to be part of this journey with me, part of our baby's life," she said earnestly. "But I also know we need to be clear about what that looks like." Caleb nodded slowly, his expression serious but hopeful. "I want that too," he replied. "I want to be there for you both, every step of the way." Amy felt a wave of relief wash over her at his words. "I think we should make a commitment to each other and to our baby," she proposed. "We need to promise that we'll communicate openly and support each other through everything." "I agree," Caleb said firmly. "We can't let fear or uncertainty hold us back anymore." As the night sky stretched out above them, Amy and Caleb shared a quiet moment of understanding, a shared vision of the future that was now more tangible than ever before. It was no longer just about what they feared or doubted, it was about what they could build together, what they were determined to create. "I know it won't always be easy," Amy said softly, her voice steady but filled with hope. "But I believe in us. I believe in what we're becoming." Caleb squeezed her hand, his eyes full of determination. "We're stronger together than apart," he said. "And nothing, not even the toughest days, will change that." In the silence that followed, the weight of their promises hung in the air, but it wasn't heavy. It was the kind of weight that felt like the foundation of something real, something lasting. They didn't have all the answers yet, but they had each other, and that was enough. As the stars above them flickered in the vastness of the night, they knew one thing for certain: no matter what the future held, they would face it side by side, with love leading the way. Share your thoughts in the comments section and subscribe our channel. Next Level. Press the bell icon for more Heartland updates. Thanks.